Yo guys, welcome to the video. This is Josh or Milky, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about the Rosa build that I've been using. I did take down Traveler just yesterday. A lot of people have done it now, playing many different builds. There are some very strong versions of this build using things like Varial Snicker. As you can see there's other people doing similar to me with Groundshaker, but maybe slightly differently. There are many ways to build Rosa. This version that I'm playing is just, for me, it was the easiest to get going, but it will not by any means be the best version of Rosa in the end game. I have no shame in admitting that. I kind of just went with the most basic scaling there is, and that's getting a decent weapon and then building damage with various other things. So we went with Demolisher skill, we went with Groundshaker, and the reason for that is it's just a nice, strong skill early on. It has so much base damage that I thought it was going to be like the best thing to start out with, as it was going to carry me all the way up to T7s, and it absolutely did. Only when I reached T8 did I feel the need to even invest slightly into the gear. Now, if you're planning on doing the build like I have done, and you just like the look of it and you want to do it how I've done it, then absolutely feel free to do so. But like I say, there's so many ways to do this. You can go deck stacking, strength stacking. There are the Varial Snicker memes that people are doing where they're getting tons of damage because you're like self-blocking damage so frequently that you could do spells on this character. There's absolutely tons of things you can do. So if you want to emulate what I'm doing, I will go through my gear and I will show like my talents and all that, but just be aware that there's plenty to do. So in terms of hero traits, if you followed the Maxwell guide, you'll know that I took this bottom talent right here. And this is so that when you're clearing beacons early on, you're going to get the Murderous Intent Restoration due to this bottom node here. But later on, you really want to get into Precise Steamroll, as it's just a ton of damage. For every 4 Murderous Intent, gain 3% additional damage. However, you do consume more Murderous Intent. Now, when you add up all the Murderous Intent that you're going to lose after you cast the Holy Domain, it adds up to 14. So you want some way to mitigate 14 Murderous Intent loss. And the best way to do that, I've found so far, is to use these memories that say restore 4 Murderous Intent for 5 seconds when taking damage. You can also get ones that say restore 5. And the best case scenario is you get enough to completely mitigate the 14 that you're going to lose. I only have 13 right now because I wanted to get 2 stat memories with this mod right here, where enemies will take additional damage for 5 seconds when I cast the trait skill if I have more than a certain percentage of Murderous Intent. Now, obviously, with blocking and stuff like that, I managed to keep mine up all the time, but ideally you would want to beat that 14 that you're going to be losing. So 3 memories with this modifier is going to be plenty to do that. For the relic, I just went with block ratio. This caps me at 60 when combined with my shield. And then this mod here, which is great for mapping. There are better mods for bossing, but for mapping, this almost ends up being 58% additional damage all the time. So that's very good. And that's going to mean you can run these very strong traits. You're going to get all this additional damage from having your Murderous Intent from the Desperation node and also from the Precise Steamroll node. And then on the end, because we have that additional 30 block ratio from our shield and the relic, we get 60 additional Murderous Intent, taking us up to 210. And 60 Murderous Intent may not sound like a lot, but when for every 4 we gain 3% additional damage, that ends up being 45% additional damage from having this node clicked, and then even more from having this node clicked. This ends up being afterwards another 24. So this node alone is 69% additional damage. Nice. Very strong. So definitely want something you want to aim towards as soon as you get your block ratio from your shield and you manage to get the Murderous Intent Restoration from your memories. So that's one important thing to start with. Next, in terms of gear, I just went with a high physical damage weapon. You can craft this using normal crafting methods where you really want to start with this physical damage hybrid flat modifier. And the reason for that is it's just the hardest one to get. Now, if you've played Train, you'll know that Train's quite notorious for the difficult to craft a weapon. This isn't quite as difficult because you don't need any rare suffixes. You just care about the prefixes. So start with this flat, roll until you get the gear physical damage, upgrade them both to T0. If you can stick with tier 1 if you're not trying to go crazy at the start and you don't have a lot of currency. And then you can even enchant the hybrid physical, this hybrid mod here. If you scroll down through your enchants, it's like 30% gear fizz. So you don't even need to get this mod here that I have T0. You can just use the enchant. And then I dreamcraft mine. What you can do is you can dreamcraft over and over again until you get what you want. I'll show the dreamcrafter here. If you go to Dream Interpretation and you select an item, let's do it with, say, this helmet. you just click Dream Interpretation. If you don't get what you want, simply abandon. If you do get what you want, let's say I wanted this. This is a bad example because I didn't get anything I can actually use. Let's see if I can get one I can use. Get immune to blinding, for example. I would record that, and then I would attempt to get a negative that doesn't affect me too much. Now, if you have a 5-stat weapon because you're going to enchant the 6th modifier, then you can basically force it to have no downside, because you would look for a downside that says replace the number 6 affix with a blemish, or just anything that affects the number 6 affix. And because you don't have a 6th affix, it won't do anything. I actually did that on one of my weapons. This is a good example. Replace number 5 affix with blemish. Well, I don't have a 5th affix, so this will do absolutely nothing. And that's what you can do. Now, if this isn't good enough, and you get to this point and you think you've bricked your item, you absolutely have not. Simply click that button that I just showed there at the bottom, click your item, and you can rewind the result, and it will undo everything that happened. So you can keep trying until you get exactly what you want. Next, we have the traits. Now, the talents, we do go still with Brutality and Instant Smash. Of course, you can't use Instant Smash early because you're not going to have the crit, but as soon as you get the crit, Instant Smash allows you to completely ignore enemy armor, which is their primary source of defense against your damage, so you definitely want that. That's the tree. You can slow that down and see it as it is. Then we have Blunt and Open Wounds. Obviously, we do inflict trauma because of Acuteness Imbue, so we get 125% additional critical strike damage, which is very good. And that's the tree, if you want to copy that. Ranger, Gravity, Impending. You can use Keep It Up early if you're trying to get, if you're struggling with crit. Impending obviously doesn't really help you that much for mapping because things get one-shot, but against bosses, this does end up being about 30% additional damage. So you could absolutely use that. And then for slates, I've gone with a Focus Strike pedigree because obviously you can use the necklace that gives you Focus Strike. I chose to use a pedigree so that I could craft a better necklace. Alternatively, you can use things like Great Strength. That gives you like 30% additional damage, but it does reduce your attack speed. But you can absolutely do that. And then for corners, I've got +1 all skills. The things you're looking out for here are +1 to levels of skills, whether it be all skills or physical skill level. As you can see here, Demolisher, Restoration Speed, which I'll talk about in a second. And then any form of additional damage, you've got crit, stuff like that. And then a very important modifier that you need to get on your slates is to gain further when blocking. This allows you to completely bypass taking any talent that guarantees further, as now you gain it every time you block. So you will block an enemy, you will gain further, and then when you crit after that, you will gain further rating, going all the way up to 100. So try get this, well, absolutely get this on one of your slates, and try get it with some other useful mods. You can see I've got Demolisher Charge, Restoration Speed. And the reason for that, essentially with Groundshaker, if you see this blue little node here, when I attack, it will be consumed, and then the time it takes for it to recharge and do another big explosion is dictated by your Demolisher Restoration Speed. So it's kind of like a cooldown in a way. The Demolisher Restoration Speed serves to reduce the time between your big instances of damage. Now, don't pay too much attention to my skills. I have done a bit of swapping around because I do have a belt that gives me +1 Warcry. But what we're going to look at for this is if I go to my creations and we look at this version, I was using Burst of Anger, and this is how you're going to deal damage to yourself in order to keep your memories constantly procced. Remember those memories we spoke about at the beginning that say gain murderous intent when you take damage? Well, you're going to do this by using Burst of Anger. This will constantly deal damage to you, so you will constantly gain murderous intent. The remainder of things, we put our Fixate on Cast on Crits. I have Weapon Amplification, Fearless, and Acuteness Imbue, and then our Curse setup as our final aura. And for the main links, I put Melee Knockback in. If you've seen this, it's because I have a candle that supports my gem with critical strike damage increase. If you don't have this candle, just use crit damage here instead of Melee Knockback and get a different candle. This does end up being quite a decent damage increase as I have so much critical strike damage. It's -70. It's maybe like 10% less crit damage. But then obviously the gem ends up being like 44. And then I get another 34% additional here. So very, very, very worth using this if you can get your hands on it. And the other candle is just some random stuff like fizz damage, imbue effect. There's plenty you can do. So for the rest of the gear, we have a helmet, Demolisher Restoration Speed, Life, Resistance, Heavyware, just a good chest. I use this when I can on most things. It gives you additional damage, it makes you take less damage, and you get some life and erosion res. For the neck, I went with active skill level and physical skill level. You can obviously settle for less than T +2/+2, as it's quite difficult to craft, but it's very good. You can also get a Demolisher Charge Restoration Speed implicit on this necklace, but they are quite hard to craft. For the belts, just res, minus damage taken, life, resistance. Boots, same thing, life, resistance. Rings, I went with physical damage, life, resistance. And then this mod here, this is a dream crafted modifier that gives 4% additional damage for every attack blocked recently. I've got this on both of my rings, and then I don't have it on this ring, but I do have it now. I've crafted a recent ring since putting this one. Same weapon. The shield, block ratio. This node here gives you 100% critical strike rating and 100% critical strike damage, because you're going to be attack block capped. So very good mod on its own if you can get it to T0. The remainder of the mods, obviously just crit damage, resistance, all that kind of stuff. Pretty normal. So that's the gear. I'll show you a quick clear of a map. As I say, I'm doing things slightly differently because of the belt that I got that gives me Warcry skill charge limit. I'm just trying this out. I'm not saying it's. I'm not sure if it's better yet. I'm just giving it a go. So this is going to be an 8-2 map. Let me not. Let's put this on. I won't show the whole map because you'll just be sat listening to me and watching me play. But essentially, what you're going to do is get straight in there, press your F key, and explode everything. That's all you're going to be doing all the time. You just pull in the mobs and then you explode them. I'll make a short video about the league mechanic. I'm still figuring some of it out. There doesn't seem to be all that much you can control. Kind of just click the best option and pray. Okay, well, we're getting stuck in these cages. It's not great for the demonstration. But... Now, the great thing about the gloves that we're using is that they explode. And with us being able to pull all the mobs on top of each other, it makes it really easy to deal with tanky mobs. This build doesn't have the highest single target damage in the world, but when you're mapping, at least, you can just pull all the mobs onto the tanky mobs and explode them. You will never have to worry about dealing with any monster in a map other than the boss if there are no mobs around when you fight him. But even then, like, the damage at the point where I have the build right now is absolutely fine. The reason we're dropping so many FEs, by the way, is because I'm farming deep space. If you know about deep space from last season, you'll know that the beacons were about 40 FE. This season, they are 6. So, yeah, I mean, farm deep space. I don't know why they're so cheap, because they dropped so many raw FEs, as you can see. I haven't even done the God of Machines or anything, and I'm printing FEs in this map. You could be doing the same, just run deep space. Even in 8-0, it's absolutely fine. At least at the price that they've been over the past few days, which has been like 6 FEs, 7 FEs, even at 8, 9, 10 FEs, it's still absolutely fine. I'll go back and do the mechanics after we've done the demonstration. And that's it. That's the boss dead. So, the build worked out exactly how I wanted it to. It got me where I wanted to be. It's not the best way to build Rosa, by any means. It's not going to be the best scaling build into the end game. I think I do about 5 billion damage to the dummy, but that doesn't account for things like me having fervor, as I can't block the dummy. I don't get the 40% additional damage, because once again, I can't block the dummy. So there are things that I can't see on the dummy. I'd wager it's probably about 80% more than the 5 billion, so we're probably around 9 billion total once we get on those additional buffs. Yeah, I got down TA Traveler. I can farm deep space tier 8s. And if you want to do the same, I hope this video helps you do that. If not, let me know. Tell me I suck. It's all good. And I'll be making some more videos in the next few days. See you next time.